Welcome to your monthly horoscopes for your sign. I want to give a big thanks to all the people who are supporting the Patreon. This is honestly sponsored and funded by you. I'm so grateful and appreciative. And I recommend watching and listening for your rising sign first. That will be the most accurate. Horoscope means observing of the hour. So you want to make sure that you have the most accurate read and then your sun sign next. Now, this is an overall arching horoscope for your rising sign. Remember to take into consideration your personal planets, your time lord, the different timing techniques that there are in astrology. So leave what does not resonate and take what does resonate. I'm also teaching an astrology one-on-one course class this fall, slated to be September 1st, 2025. There is a form down below just to get an idea of where everyone's at. It's only 5 questions if you're interested in learning how to read your own chart, because I'm all about teaching you how to fish. So anyway, thank you again so much, and let's go to your sign. Hello, Leos, and welcome to your season. I felt very called to do your sign first, obviously. And yeah, I think that there's something going on about remembering who you are. If you ever watch that movie, The Lion King, when Simba is away from home and he's living with Timon and Pumbaa, and he sees the apparition of his father, Mufasa, and he just keeps hearing the ghosts saying, remember who you are, remember who you are. And I think that with Mercury retrograde in your sign going through the first house, this is where Mercury has its joy. The first house is called the helm in ancient astrology. This is really about understanding who you are at your heart, right? Like Leo rules the heart space. I think it's also interesting that having the sun in its domicile in Leo is what gives everything in this planet life. Like nothing would exist, nothing would grow without the sun's light. So you also want to look at your chart ruler, which is your sun. So your chart ruler is your sun sign, which I think is so special to see what area of your life your sun illuminates and wants to grow and wants to shine. So, for example, if you're a Leo rising, but you're a Taurus sun, your sun sits at the top of your chart in the 10th house. Those two energies of Leo and Taurus are very different, but that sun is speaking back to that Leo rising, the embodiment of knowing who you are at your authentic core, and being unapologetic about the ways in which you need to express yourself. Leo is the archetype of the royal figure, the king, the queen, the celebrity, the famous one. And oftentimes the stereotype of Leo is needing that attention and needing to be the center of attention. But those are actually not all Leos, first of all. And I think some of the shadow aspects where when Leo doesn't truly know thyself or accept thyself, they need that external validation to know who they are. But a real conscious, elevated Leo is somebody that knows exactly who they are and shines that out, as within, so without. So I think it's interesting that in the summer of 2023, there was a Venus retrograde that went through your first house and second house of your possession, your finances, the ways in which you make money. And it was all about your self-worth and value, right? You might have gone through some kind of like physical changes. I know my Leo rising friend got pregnant for the first time, or you went through some maybe cosmetic changes as Venus and Leo. They tend to be more interested in the ways that they look aesthetically. But something was going on the summer of 2023, August specifically. And then during this the winter of 2023 going into 2025, and then the spring there was a Mars retrograde that went from Leo to Cancer, which is your first and 12th houses. The 12th house in astrology is the house of the unknown and things that are hidden and hidden enemies. So again, like with all these personal planets retrograding through your sign, there's something about reclaiming and remembering who you really are, because now you have Mercury retrograde going through your first house, and Mercury being the planet about communication and expression, writing, speech. And so the personal planets, if you don't know, are the moon, obviously, the sun, Venus, Mars, and Mercury. Those are the ones that are closest to Earth. So, with that being said, I think this is your season, right? When the sun goes through your first house, this is all about a renewal of self, the spotlight's on you. And maybe you decide that you want to put yourself out there more, or you want to improve on your physical body, your physical vessel. But again, with Mercury retrograde here until the end of, to the middle of the month in August, this is really about recalibrating how you show up in like a group context, in a friendship context, and how you also your self-worth is really tied to the ways in which you are able to receive money, and your sense of self-worth, as Mercury rules your your second and 11th houses. So those two topics are coming into you. And the 11th house is also about our long term goals and aspirations. So you might also be thinking about that as well. Um, so let's get into it. Now we're going to break it down day by day. On August 1st, Venus in Cancer will square Saturn retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. And then later on, Venus will square Neptune retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. So your Cancer house is the 12th, which, like I mentioned, is the house of what's hidden, what's unknown, and what's foreign to you. And your Aries house is your ninth house of, I would say, it's like our belief systems. It is the house of God. This is where astrology, philosophy, spirituality, foreign lands, and foreign travel are, and our visions for like what we believe is possible for ourselves. And the sun has its joy in the ninth house. So there is something about combating some self-sabotaging thoughts about your value, of like your worth. Maybe there's an insecurity of like you're not adequate or you're not good enough, self-sabotaging feelings around what it is that you believe you deserve, and you desire. Because at the end of the day, Aries is the pioneer. Aries is a risk taker. This is fuck around and find out energy. And you're having a exact conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees, which is a seeding moment in a cardinal sign, February of 2026. And this is if you're like an early degree Leo rising, like let's say from 0 to, I don't use wide orbs. So I use like 6 degree orbs. So if you're 0 to 6 degrees of a Leo rising, this is such a potent moment for you of like really co-creating something that is just new and different. And you're kind of emerging into the person that you've always wanted to become with this kind of energy, right? But there's something about all of these planets going back into their signs, like Neptune and Saturn are going to go back into Pisces in your eighth house. Uranus is going to go back into your 10th house of Taurus. And there's something about that going back and forth between signs. Like you're not necessarily done with the chapter yet, because something else needs to be integrated and understood before you form this new thing. Now, Neptune is the planet of our imagination, our the liminal space. It is our dreams. It's like what we believe is possible for us, but it's kind of intangible. It is like the mist, it's the veil, it is the transcendence beyond the physical body. And Saturn is the material realm. Saturn is the boundary. Saturn is the physical form. So those two coming together is such an important like I'm actually really curious about what is going to unfold for all of us because it's such a potent like seeding moment for what we truly want to birth. Aries is also a very like young sign. It's ruled by Mars. It's like, I want to experiment. I want to do this thing. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm going to try it out. I'm going to, what is that saying? Like throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And so in the meantime, though, you're kind of like grappling with some of these like maybe old feelings, with your 12th house in Cancer, memories from the past, things that you might have like brought on from just experiences throughout this life. Um, I think the 12th house is a place where we have to deeply trust in what we don't see versus what we do see. It's a very psychic and liminal space kind of place. And so you have Jupiter transiting through this house for the next year until I think June of 2026. And so your intuition and your psychic abilities might be expanding at this time. And just like, what is it that you're trying to co-create at this time? Sorry, that was like a long tangent to try to explain what's been going on with all these cardinal sign activations. And I think Venus, being the planet of um, relationships, worth, and value, and like what it is that you're truly attracted to, I think it's an important moment on August 1st to recognize that. And I think, squares are 90-degree angles. They are in the nature of Mars, they're conflict aspects in astrology. But I think with a benefic here, I think it is somewhat positive, like something can spark in you that you're just like, okay, I can't take this anymore. Like I have to do the thing. I have to express myself. I have to put myself out there. That's the kind of energy that a square brings. On August 6th, Mars will ingress into Libra, and Libra is your third house. So, the third house in astrology is about communication, it's our neighborhood, it's our siblings. Now, Mars is in the opposite sign of its domicile, and this is called detriment. So Mars is at home in its domicile in the signs of Aries and Scorpio. So when Mars is in the opposite sign, the sister signs, the Venus ruled signs like Taurus and Libra, Mars can't do its thing. Like Mars wants to sever, it wants to take action, it wants to get after it. But when Mars is in Libra, Mars is a little indecisive. Mars wants to be more of a negotiator, somebody who wants to make sure that everyone's on board, that there's harmony and peace. And Mars doesn't want to do that. Mars is like, come after me. Let's take this outside. So that's why Mars is in its detriment. Now, I have Mars in Libra, so I can tell you that the ways in which this shows up for me is conflict resolution. Sometimes I do just want to be like, like fuck off, and which I do sometimes too, but um sometimes I just want to like ghost people and just, write people off. But my Mars and Libra is like, no, we have to repair, we have to try to um compromise, and we have to try to like take action together too, like getting people on board. A lot of politicians happen to have Mars in Libra. Like I think Bill Clinton has it, AOC. I'm not saying those are people to look up to. I'm just saying, like, they have this like charisma about them that also gets people on board for better or for worse. On August 8th, Mars and Libra will trine Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree. So Mars is trying to get you to maybe like repair relationship with a sibling, or try to be more active in your local neighborhood, which I think is also a signature of Uranus and Gemini, because Uranus is about disruption and change, and Gemini is a sign that speaks about like our local neighborhood. So this aspect, which is a trine, it's a very harmonious aspect between the same element. So Libra and Gemini are air signs. This is very supportive for canvassing, for going out in your community, doing some community actions, speaking out about things on social media, or just with your, your family and your neighborhood, or people that maybe, you wouldn't necessarily talk to about these things. You might have like opposing political views, but I always say that that's an opportunity to plant a seed. Um, Mars is not afraid to say the thing. It's not afraid to do the thing. And so when it's in Libra, which is like also an archetype of justice, it is speaking on behalf of people who literally are being silenced right now. So Gemini is your 11th house of groups and collective. So maybe this is the moment, this is the day where you're like, these are my belief systems, take it or leave it. And this is the day that you finally speak up. On the same day, Mars and Libra will be opposing Saturn retrograde in Aries at 1 degree, which is interesting because that Saturn is speaking to that Mars in Libra, because the ruler of Aries is Mars. So there's an opposition too. Now, of course, what I just said about Mars and Libra trine Uranus Gemini is like really positive. Mars opposite Saturn can be a little contentious. It's like the moment you say something, somebody might like, cut you off, or your video gets shadow banned, or nobody looks at your video because they're just like, well, this person is just talking about this all of a sudden, like what the heck, but I would still encourage you to do it, because um I I personally believe that sometimes oppositions are a good thing. Like I'm never going to be that person that says like on a Mercury retrograde, like don't say the thing, like try to just like wait until after. I think sometimes it needs to come out. Like whatever you've been holding on to needs to come out, and whatever opposition you do face just might be like this like epiphany moment, this like awakening moment, because for me personally, every time I've spoken out and I've gotten backlash, I've realized like those are the people that are not my people. And anything you say at this point on social media, someone's not going to like it. On August 9th, Mars and Libra will oppose Neptune retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. And yeah, I mean, Neptune is a generational planet. So Neptune in Aries is like we're all collectively trying to birth something new, something that we've never seen before. Neptune is also it symbolizes like the film and industry in Hollywood and music. And so like Mars and Libra opposite Neptune and Aries on that day, just at a mundane level, might be like um more people speak out about what's happening in Gaza, and like demand a ceasefire. Mars is the planet about war as well, and conflict. Not that I'm saying what's happening in Gaza is a conflict. I'm just saying there are many different um, conflicts and wars going on in the world as well. But yeah, Mars and Libra personally, when it opposes Neptune, there could be some confusion of like your direction. Neptune is speaking to that Mars and Libra. You could be like indecisive about something, or there's a rupture in a relationship, as Libra also uh, symbolizes relationships. I think personally, this has a lot to do with what's going on in Hollywood right now with like censorship, um, what was it? CBS, which is the parent company of Paramount, just canceled Stephen Colbert's show for speaking out and criticizing them for settling their lawsuit with Trump. We might see more of that kind of thing, like when people are actually doing something or active, then it opposes a certain industry that is represented by Neptune, like all the significations I just mentioned, the art, film, music industry, Hollywood. And so look out for that. Now, August 9th is also the day of the full moon in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is your sister sign. So this is going to be in your seventh house of one on one partnerships, relationships, and contracts. And I actually have the chart so that we can look at it together. And it's happening at 16 degrees. So you want to see if you have your rising sign and your descendant at 16 degrees or around there. Okay. So a full moon happens when clearly we are in Leo season. And so the sun is in Leo and it's opposing an Aquarius moon. Now, what's interesting about this is that after this full moon perfects, meaning it goes exact, the moon will not make any other aspects. And so this is called a void of course moon. And the void of course moon that day is like 22 hours and 55 minutes. It's basically a 24-hour void of course moon. And I've spoken about this on different weekly astrology forecasts that normally I would say, no, I'm sorry. Normally I would say anyway, on a full moon, it's just to release and to be very present with what comes up and do some internal work, do some journaling. I like to gather with friends on full moons. It's just something that feels very ancestral to me. But the fact that this full moon then is a void of course moon for 24 hours, it's also giving more of that energy of like not to start anything. This isn't the day to like launch something. For example, I just want to pull up the screenshot I took of my teacher Sam Reynolds slide about the void of course moon. So the best thing to do during a void moon is completely nothing because nothing will come of it. And so in astrology, there's different rules of like what you would consider a void of course moon. And for me, I use like the just like the traditional planets plus the outer planets. So the 16-degree Aquarius moon, after it perfects its last aspect in the sign of Aquarius before it moves into a different sign. And so you need the moon in order to make something in the physical world stick, if that makes sense. um so start a camp. So these are the things that you can do during a void of course moon. Start a campaign that you think will come under a lot of fire. So this is also why Ronald Reagan, his wife Nancy, hired an astrologer. I forget her name now. And she would elect these times of void of course moons for certain bills to go through the House of Representative and the Senate so that it wouldn't get backlash, so that it would pass. And so that's a good day to pass something That's also on July 4th, the big beautiful bill, the big beautiful bill. That was passed during a void of course moon, and it basically didn't get any fire from the House and the Senate, not from like the regular people. Um, Elect a pope, rest and relax, edit and revise, plan, socialize with old friends, get away from it all, make a routine trip, a new activity where you have no clear attachments or stakes. Confirmation tests, especially after what may be false positive or negative, mail or file your tax returns, maintenance, put your special belongings in a safe deposit box. So these are the things you can do during the void of course moon. What I've been doing during the void of course moons is like rest and relax, honestly. So that's just more incentive to do that after a full moon. And the ruler of this full moon is the Saturn retrograde in Aries. And again, like I said, this full moon is closing a chapter around your one-on-one relationships, contracts. And this isn't just like your marriage partner. This is like all one-on-one relationships. And both Leo and Aquarius talk about authenticity, but they go about it in different ways, right? Leo is through the self and Aquarius is through the group. And the moon is our innate feelings and needs of safety and security. So there could be some like closure releasing around a relationship. There could be just maybe like your partner, your friend, your business partner just reveals something to you, like what they've been feeling or how this relationship isn't in alignment anymore. But since Saturn retrograde in Aries is the ruler of this moon and it's in your ninth house, this could be around like maybe you're not on the same page around belief systems or philosophy or spirituality, or it does also, the ninth house also speaks about like legal and court rulings too. So some of my Leo risings, not to alarm you, because if your relationship is already on shaky ground, this could mean maybe you're like filing for divorce or filing papers, because Saturn is the lord of karma and time and commitment, and it's retrograde. And Aries, it's like the self. This could also be maybe you just feel like you want to make a commitment. It could be the total opposite. You're dating somebody and you're like, okay, this is the time to lock it in. This could be maybe you committing to something, like you started something in the areas of like writing or publishing or speaking or broadcasting or media, and you're like, okay, this is my recommitment to this after this full moon in Aquarius. So yeah, I think overall it's a pretty big moon for you, just because it's an angular house. The angular houses are 1, 4, 7th, and 10th. So this is like the direct opposite of your sign, and it's going to impact your relationships in some way and how you show up to them. Okay, so moving on. Um, this full moon is going to happen at 3:55 a.m. Eastern time. And the tarot card that goes with this is the Six of Swords. This is in the second decan of Aquarius, which is a Mercury ruled decan. And this is about going from one place that was like it wasn't doing it anymore. And this could be physically, it could also be mentally, because it is Mercury ruled, and going towards safer shores. This is like what I call like the refugee card, or like the finally moving to safer waters, because as you see, like this little kid and this woman are being what is it, shuttled, shipped over to another part of the land or the waters. And so Aquarius is also a very innovative, future forward thinking sign. And with Mercury, it's like maybe if it's not physical yet, if you're not moving yet, or if you're not like um physically moving yet, this could be thinking about this. Like it's like, what can I actually do in this moment to move to a future timeline that I desire? And this is ultimately positive. Like Six of Swords is like moving to safer waters. And so I also pray that um at this point, the full moon in Aquarius, that there is a ceasefire, that there is, I hope even before this, that there is a end of the blockade and that people in Gaza get to have food and humanitarian aid go by, because I think I read somewhere that they are in the like fifth stage of um, this manufactured famine. Um, so anyway, I'm sorry, this is like a personal horoscope for you, but just in the mundane sense, like something is breaking free, hopefully. Something is if either in your mind you're being liberated by something, you're moving forward, something is moving to safer waters. Now, like I said, because it's happening in your seventh house, this could be a breakthrough in your relationship in some way, or multiple relationships in some way. Okay, so moving on from the full moon, on August 10th, Mars in Libra will trine Pluto in Aquarius at 2 degrees. So, yeah, like this is really lovely. Like trines are supportive in nature. Hold on, I need to go back here to my Leo rising. Okay. Um, okay. So, after the energy of this full moon kind of um so an opposition, right, is a 180 degree, that's a full moon. And once it starts separating, once the moon starts separating, the pressure will be relieved, because you might like the moon has the effect of um, the gravitational pull of the oceans of the world. And so we also are 75% water. So, like, emotions might be high. And, like, the tendency with an Aquarius moon is to kind of try to detach and, like, move forward. But I encourage you to really be honest with your feelings, because, like I said, when Mars and Pluto trine, which is ultimately supportive, but this might entice you to speak up. Um, because the third house is your like communication, um, the rituals you do, the people that you see every day, the apps that you open every day, the newsletters you read, the just like the very mundane things that are in your immediate periphery. And again, Mars wants to make something happen. It wants to bring about a balance here. And trying to Pluto, I mean, if you have your descendant around like 0 to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Pluto is right on your descendant. So this could also talk about your partner if you have one. Your partner might be going through a transformation. Your partner might be going through some dark night of the soul moments, because Pluto is like the god of the underworld. So depending on how you're coping with that, you might feel the need to step in and say something, or or at least advocate for yourself, right? That's what Mars does. Otherwise, you can definitely use this energy again, like if you have any aspirations for social media or content creation, writing, or just getting your thoughts out and like being more present in a community space area. Because, all of your social houses are in air signs. It's about sharing ideas and asking questions and making connections. This is also another great day to do it, but like I think because it's Pluto, it's more like deep, serious, transformative conversations. Um, so then on August 12th, Venus in Cancer conjuncts Jupiter in Cancer at 14 degrees. And this is like the loveliest aspect in, I would say, August, but also like 2025 as well, because Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. It's almost at its exaltation degree of 15 degrees in the Western tradition. And Jupiter is now like visible in the sky. If you wake up in the morning, you'll see just before sunrise, you will see Jupiter in the daytime sky as a morning star. Um, the only caveat now, okay, so in the beginning of when Jupiter ingressed into the sign of Cancer in June, it was getting kind of beat down by Saturn and Neptune because Saturn and Neptune were in an overcoming square. And then we kind of had like Jupiter in the sunbeams, which made Jupiter a little weak. But now Jupiter is out of the sunbeams and it is, doing its Jupiterian thing. But now, as Mars starts catching up to Jupiter, Mars will start to square Jupiter. Um, and so although I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad thing, but Jupiter is going to start to, I mean, Mars is going to start to irritate that Jupiter of what like Jupiter wants to grow. Um, so when you have something really luscious and beautiful and like abundant like this, like Venus in Cancer conjunct Jupiter in Cancer, I would definitely take advantage of this day. It's in your 12th house. This is such a great day to, if you are in the market for it, make babies because, Jupiter in Cancer is a fertility, like literally about fertility, whether it's a like a human baby or a project, but Jupiter rules your fifth house of children. Um, and again, this is just a beautiful day to like like set an intention for something that you want to grow. When the two benefics come together like this, it's like you want to take advantage of it. The 12th house, again, like I was saying throughout all of the Cancer transits, is a place where you kind of like plant the seed, um, and trust that it's growing. Like, don't disrupt the soil. The 12th house is that time of day when the sun comes up and everything that was visible in the night sky in the dark then all kind of becomes hidden. Doesn't mean that it's not there, it's just that you can't see it. And so the ability to have these benefics in your 12th house is actually really magical because it portends to this like planting the seed and like having faith, which is a Jupiterian delineation of when I let it go and I kind of surrender and I get my own head and my own control out of it, that it will birth something new. And, Jupiter is going to go into Leo in 2026 to 2027, which is your first house. Moving right along. Now we're getting to mid month. August 14th, Mars in Libra will sextile Mercury in Leo at 5 degrees. And again, like Sextiles are 60-degree angles. They're in the nature of Venus. This is between two supportive elements. So this is Mercury in Leo, which is fire, being supported by Mars in Libra, which is an air sign, because you need air to grow a fire. Um, and oh, it's so interesting because then on August 18th, Mercury in Leo will sextile Mars in Libra at 7 degrees. Um, so yeah, this is really supportive. I think Mercury in Leo is talking from the heart. It's being courageous with your words. It's having confidence of what you want to express, whether through spoken word or writing, or the ways in which you show up, and being very authentic about it. And when it's sextile Mars like that, it's like giving some fuerte, some force. And Mars and Libra people, like I mentioned, are charismatic, and they know the right words to say, they know the right actions to take in order to get people on board. So because this is between the first and the third house, this is another good day to speak out, to take action in your community, in your local community. If you have like any desire to write anything like a column, a Substack, this is another good day to take advantage of that. On August 22nd, we are now in Virgo season officially. So, sorry, Leos, your season is over. And on August 23rd, the very next day, there is a new moon at 0 degrees of Virgo. This happens at 2:06 a.m. This new moon is not an eclipse. But I do find it interesting that on September 21st, so exactly a month later, there is a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo. So at the beginning of the sign and at the end of the sign, except the one in September is a solar eclipse. So this is your second house of your money, your finances, your possessions, and the South Node is going through there. So there is some kind of decreasing thing happening over here. Now, don't be worried because I have this natally in my chart and I've learned to work with it. When the South Node is in your second house and the North Node is in your eighth house, you need to truly understand what it means to um, you need to understand the law of reciprocity. It's like when to give and when to receive, when to let go of the control of your finances and your possessions and your physical things, and allow the divine to take care of you and others to take care of you through the eighth house. Virgo and Pisces are very spiritual signs. When the North Node is in Pisces, this is remembering our divinity and connection to others, and remembering that that divinity is through us, our bodies, through Virgo. Virgo is also a pretty like perfectionist sign. It always wants to do better and always wants to edit and it always wants to like improve. And so I think with the South Node there, it's like releasing some of those like perfectionist and controlling habits and allowing the divine, allowing magic to take over more. When you're constantly trying to control things, it doesn't allow the magic to come through. And I know that might sound crazy for me to say, given that we live in late stage capitalism. But honestly, like I said, I have this natally in my chart. So this is something that I've just had to learn and understand through time and patience and deep trust and really understanding what money is and what it means to feel internally, physically, that I'm always going to be taken care of, but also to ask for help when I need it. So that's the North Node in Pisces through your eighth house of other people. And so these eclipses happening in these houses are asking like, transforming the ways in which you think about money, feel about money, how you earn, how you spend, all of the things that are tied to your worth, which unfortunately in American culture, we have deemed money as like a god. Capitalism is our religion. Um, One of the things you can ask during this time is like, who are you at your core? If you didn't make money, if you had no money, if you didn't have a job, if you didn't produce anything, if you didn't do anything, like who are you when all of that is stripped away? And this is like deep work. It's very triggering work because, again, like our sense of worth is so tied to money in this country that it's like, I mean, I'm based here in the United States. So a lot of you might not be, a lot of you might live in other places around the world, but you cannot deny that globally we live in this capitalistic way of being. So the new moon, I actually have this chart, so let me share it. Um, okay, so this is Virgo season. We've established that the sun is in Virgo here at 0 degrees, and a new moon is when the moon and the sun are together in the same sign. And so, like I mentioned, it's not an eclipse because an eclipse is when the sun and the moon are 15 degrees, about 15 degrees away from the nodes. And so, as you can see, this is 18 degrees away. So, it's not an eclipse. Um, and the ruler of this moon is this Mercury in Leo. And Mercury is direct now at this point. Um, okay. Okay. Okay, as I was doing that, I think I skipped a day accidentally, which is August 11th. Saturn retrograde in Aries will sextile Uranus in Gemini at 1 degree. And the same day, Mercury goes direct at 4 degrees of Leo, which is why I was like, wait, did I miss Mercury going direct? So Saturn retrograde in Aries, sextile Uranus in Gemini, again, is very supportive. Uranus is trying to disrupt your 11th house, is trying to change something. Perhaps you are leading a group, perhaps your friendships are changing, perhaps you're a part of different kind of groups that are a little bit more revolutionary, may I add. And sextiles are supportive. And so maybe these types of people are also interested in astrology or have the same type of like spiritual beliefs as you do. You know, the ninth house is like the house of God. It's our dharma, it's our purpose, right? So you're just finding people who are in alignment with what it is that you believe at this point. But this is very supportive, and it kind of speaks about like two houses speaking to each other that are starting something new in a disruptive way. Your ninth house and your 11th house, and how they're like supporting each other and making this happen. And then, like I mentioned, Mercury goes direct at 4 degrees of Leo. And so now Mercury will be retracing its steps from when is it? June, all of July, basically, when it was retrograde. So, yeah, this is the moment where it's the post shadow. So it's like now you're taking action on the things that you've been reflecting on during the retrograde. So going back to the new moon in Virgo, sorry about that. That new moon is speaking to now a direct Mercury at 12 degrees. And this is like a seeding moment. This is like setting intentions with this new moon in Virgo at the 0 degree. Something wants to come about in your Virgo house. Now, your Virgo house has been releasing and purging. You're trying to let go of perfectionist tendencies. You're trying not to be too judgmental of yourself and others. And let me see. And it's being squared to that Uranus and Gemini. So yeah, like whatever is seated in this moment has some kind of like disruptive energy. Like this isn't a normal new moon in Virgo. It has the because right after this new moon perfects, the moon is going to square to Uranus. So it's like this shock of like, oh my God, like this epiphany, this aha moment. Where Virgo is kind of like the perfectionist and kind of like paralyzed by anxiety, if I can say that. Gemini is kind of that unhinged, chaotic, fun friend who's like, spill the tea. I want to know everything. I want to know all the gossip. And so um I'm I'm just saying this because Uranus is in your 11th house of friendships, right? So this could just be like a seeding moment of getting some friends help with what it is that you're trying to create, something that is what you want to do, something that you desire to do, something that you're passionate about, and you get paid for it. Virgo's second house, there you go. Now this is the very, very first decan of Virgo, which is represented by the Eight of Pentacles. And this is a sun ruled decan in the Chaldean order. So this is like a commitment and craftsmanship. This is like the commitment and mastery to your craft, which makes sense, right? Because it's 0 degrees of Virgo. You're planting a seed, you're setting intentions for something that you're growing and that you're really committed to. And that the fact that it's squared by Uranus, it could be something completely different from what you've been currently doing. And also think about the different pathways in which you can receive the funds, right? North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo in your financial axes. The ways in which you're going to make money, I hate that word, make money, receive money, be well funded for your talents and gifts is going to change in some capacity. I do think it's also interesting that on this new moon, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the three outer planets, are all at 1 degree, which, according to Nikola Stajonovich's degree theory, that's the Aries degree, which is ruled by Mars. And these placements are about expressing their personal goals and moving their vision forward. Remember, this was the full moon in Aquarius, moving vision forward. Now we're at the new moon in Virgo. We're committing to something. We're doing something differently. And so Uranus is in your 11th house. Neptune is in your ninth house and Pluto is in your seventh house. So all of these outer planets are bringing some like vision or personal goal forward. Now, again, these are outer planets. So, of course, like their transits are longer. So, this is something like long term. This is something that you're like committing to. Okay. So, that's the new moon in Virgo. Um, Now, again, this is like a planting of a seed of possibly like how how you're going to spend your money, um, earn your money, and a change of how you receive funds, the funds necessary to do your purpose. On August 24th, the sun in Virgo was square Uranus in Gemini at 1 degree. So, everything I just said about that new moon, the sun's, now the sun is coming into a square with that Uranus. So, the sun is your chart ruler. So, when your chart ruler goes into your second house, it's like putting the spotlight on your possessions, looking around like all your physical possessions. It's also like um in Vedic astrology what we feed ourselves, like in terms of content and food and um how we're able to sustain ourselves, right? It's also the throat and the mouth as well. So putting a spotlight on your second house, which is Virgo, which is so interesting because like if you're a Leo rising, you're like you have this like golden aura about you. And then the second house being in Virgo is like, I think of that Dochi song, Anxiety. So having the South Node there can give you a little bit of anxiety of your personal finances. Um, but again, with that square to Uranus, it's like you got to think about this in a different way. You're having your mini revolution around the ways in which your personal aspirations, dreams, and desires are now going to be directly impacted, or the ways in which you receive money and make money. I don't like making money because it's like we're not making money. We're just receiving money based on our talents and gifts. And the more we share our talents and gifts, the more money we receive, right? Um, okay, so on August 25th, Venus ingresses into Leo. And this is so lovely because when Venus, the benefic, transits our first house, all of a sudden people are attracted to us. We look really good. So you want to look back to the summer of 2023, August, July, August, September of last year. I mean, 2023, when Venus was there and it was during that retrograde, right? Can you think back to what happened during that time? And now Venus is back here, trying to, beautify yourself. The spotlight's on you, Leo. And because Venus also rules your 10th house of career, this could be, you putting yourself out there more. It also rules your third house of communication, your Libra house. So again, this could be another way that you can show up in a bigger, brighter way. The same day, Venus and Leo will trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries at 0 degrees. And that's a pretty big deal because when cardinal signs are at 0 degrees, that's a world point. But again, that is Saturn going retrograde. Um, this is really nice because it's a trine to you, a fellow fire sign. This could be a relationship because Saturn rules your seventh house and one-on-one relationship, meeting somebody through a foreign land or foreign travel. Um, this could be you going abroad, you kind of like going back to school, learning something. Because Saturn also has this very like stoic, um, disciplined, committed energy. Of course, when it's in Aries, when it's in its fall, it is this like, I need to do it now. The time is now. The time to act is now. And so you might be feeling this urge to just do things and center joy and play again. Leo is also the archetype of our inner children, our inner child, and remembering all the things that used to bring you joy. And I honestly, I'm actually staying with my friends right now, and they have a 2-year-old, and she has no concept of time. Everything is in the present moment, everything is now. And it's just so like refreshing to live that way again. So I don't know, this could be a really fun moment to do something fun, go on a foreign travel, learn something new, and yeah, just do it, right, Aries? Um, and then on this day, Mercury is officially out of its post shadow when Leo moves beyond the 15 degrees. So again, if your rising sign is 4 to 15 degrees, Mercury was going over your rising sign 3 times. And now with the post shadow, it's like, okay, what have you integrated and learned from that retrograde, and how can you now apply it to take action in a different way? On August 26th, Venus and Leo will sextile Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree. And then on the same day, Venus and Leo will trine Neptune and Aries at 1 degree. Now, these are very supportive and very lovely. Like I mentioned back on August 25th, when Venus was trine to Saturn, when Venus and Neptune come together, this is like Delulu lemon energy. This is like finding a soulmate. And I don't just mean like soulmates, just romantic way, but like platonic soulmates, people that you were always destined to meet. Maybe getting back into some spiritual practice, because Venus is at the end of the day about our desires, it's about attraction, and it's about relationships and also worth and value. And Neptune has this very dreamy quality. So this could be a great day to do art, listen to music, go to a festival, go to a concert, again, travel abroad because your Aries is your ninth house. Um, I mean, I'm an Aries, so fuck around and find out, take a risk, do something fun. Um, and then yeah, like another like aspect to this like risk-taking energy is Venus is sextile Uranus and Gemini. And Gemini is your 11th house. Like this could be you like falling in love with somebody that normally wouldn't be your type, but all of a sudden you look over and you're like, "Hey, I think I'm attracted to my friend." Or even just like falling in love with life again. I think Leo risings have had a particularly difficult 2023 and 2024 with all of those squares to Uranus and Mars in your 10th house and the nodes that were going between your 10th and 4th houses. So I think like now with all of these air and fire signs, all the outer planets moving into air and fire signs, which are more supportive, I think this is like the breath of fresh air that maybe Leo risings have been asking for. Um, on on August 27th, Venus and Leo will oppose Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree. Um, this is like opposites attract energy. It's fatal attraction. But also like Pluto, I always think of like shadow work, right? Like because they're in sister signs too, and Venus and Leo is in your first house, this could also be like um the ways in which the other, like your partner or like an abusive relationship from the past, like made you feel inadequate or not worthy, and doing the shadow work around that. Um, because that's really intense when Venus is opposing Pluto in your angular houses of you and the other person. But I would definitely check in with yourself, like if you do get triggered or if something comes up like to the shadows, you just take a moment, you pause, you breathe, and you say, okay, why is this coming up for me now? Because all of those triggers are information to do deeper shadow work and opportunities for you to reclaim your power and your self-worth. Last but not least, on August 28th, Neptune retrograde in Aries will sextile Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree. Wow, this is like such a like new world building kind of energy, right? Like again, we're talking about your ninth house, your 11th house. What are you Leo risings creating? Because whatever you are, it seems that the outer planets are really supporting you and then sharing it in a very public way. This could be like you also leading a group, you teaching people, you inventing a new social media app, perhaps. Please do. But you're like I said, throughout this whole August horoscope, you are envisioning something different for yourself. You are trying to take all of the rough transits that you've been going through in the last couple of years and making yourself be seen authentically for who you are and feeling really good in your body and being well resourced and well funded for your gifts and your talents. If I can summarize like your August, it's like you're coming into this place of like truly knowing. And if everything has already been created, if you believe in like universal consciousness and like the quantum realm, then you know that everything everywhere has already been created. It's just about feeling it embodied and knowing and observing the external stimuli when it comes to you. So if you really believe that you already have everything, there is no chasing, there is no wanting, there is no controlling, because that is an energy of lack and thinking that it's outside of you. And like I said in the beginning, Leos, the magic of Leo placements is knowing that you already have it within you and you shine that light out to other people. That's what makes truly aligned conscious leaders who are heart-centered, who just happen to be the leader because you went first, because you are guided by some divine being. Um, so anyway, thank you so much, Leos. Happy solar return and return to yourself. And I will see you next month. Bye.